Hello everybody, Happy New Year. 2010 was a pretty bad year for movies, but there were actually a good percentage of really great films this year. And with that, this is the top 10 best movies of 2010. At number 10, we have the excellent horror/zombie movie, The Crazies. This one is definitely a dark horse because most critics wouldn't put a horror zombie movie on their top 10 list. But this is one of the most effective straight horror movies that I've seen in a long time. Not only did it feature some of the best jump scares of the year, but it also had a genuinely scary premise of this small little town just going insane. And it was a really suspenseful, very scary, really well-acted movie, and I just enjoyed this movie all the way through. So I figured, you know what? Why not put this on the list? Because in terms of horror movies this year, this was the best one by far. And also, this is the type of remake that really should be made. You take a more obscure movie and just do something great with it, so this is the version that people will remember. At number 9, Danny Boyle's new film, 127 Hours. This movie's on the list for two reasons. Coming off of Slumdog Millionaire, I wasn't really a fan of Danny Boyle. But this film is just fantastically directed. This is such a simple premise. A guy gets stuck under a rock, and through visual, including camera tricks, audio, and every trick imaginable, Danny Boyle manages to keep this thing so tense and so exciting. But what really carries this film, what really makes it a top-notch production, is James Franco's performance. Wow. This guy, who has not really done anything too great in the past few years, just pulls off an incredible performance here. He's pretty much a one-man show through the whole thing, and he just has such a charisma and such an emotional connection with his audience that he manages to make 90 Minutes Under a Rock completely bearable. And what I really loved about this film is that it's not just a story of survival, it's a story of redemption. It also wins the award for the most squirm-worthy scene of the year. Number 8 is Martin Scorsese's excellent Shutter Island. Now, when I said The Crazies was the best horror movie of the year, I meant in a straight horror sense. There were a lot of great psychological thrillers this year, and Shutter Island was one of them. This movie is going to get largely ignored at the Oscars, despite it being a Martin Scorsese movie. But it really doesn't deserve that, because not only... This is another case like 127 Hours, where not only is the direction great, but Leonardo DiCaprio gives a masterful performance as the main character. And this movie's twist, wow. It's just a great story that keeps you engaged, not only through the creepiness of it, but from the fantastic development of its characters. At number 7 is the Ryan Reynolds one-man show, Buried. This is by far the most underrated movie of the year. This movie is phenomenal. The filmmaking in it is just great. This movie is 90 minutes of Ryan Reynolds in a coffin, and it manages to keep it exciting. Not like 127 Hours, where there's some stuff outside with some other people. This is pure claustrophobic horror, and it's terrifying. And the fact that this director managed to keep it interesting for 90 minutes is just an amazing feat. And Ryan Reynolds, man, does this guy deserve to win Best Actor, and man, will he get ignored. Because no one saw this movie, and that's very unfortunate, because Ryan Reynolds in this film proves every bad thing that's been said about him completely false. This guy just has you convinced all the way through. His character is in this terrifying situation, and he makes you believe it completely. He makes you relate to the character, and he makes you feel so just bad for him. And as much as I love 127 Hours, this is the film that needs to be getting the Oscar attention. Ryan Reynolds deserves to win Best Actor, and the film really does deserve a nomination for Best Picture just because of the incredible filmmaking in it. At number 6, we have the Ben Affleck crime saga, The Town. You couldn't get more up my alley than this movie. This is just a great crime movie, great performances, great story, everything about it is it's just a very solid film. And we didn't get it, it's just, in a year where many of the films were just wishy-washy, it was just great to see a good, solid execution of just a kind of cliche plot, but just everything about it was just fantastic. But all the performances by the entire cast, just great, very authentic. Boston was like a character in this movie, and that's probably the best thing about it, is that they really captured Boston and just the language and the style and the feel of the film. And the whole thing is just put together so well. There's great action scenes. It's just a great all-around film, and that's a lot more than what we got from a lot of other movies this year. Ben, my friend, you've come a long way since Geely. At number 5 is the Mickey Ward biopic, The Fighter. One of the very best sports movies I've ever seen. I love the story of this film. I love how it's just not your typical underdog story where he has to rise up and beat the big bad fighter and go through all the typical hardships that he goes through. No, this is a film about Mickey Ward's real origins with his hard as hell family, and just it feels like how it really was. It doesn't feel like it's movified just for a wider audience. And the best thing about it is the performances. Mark Wahlberg and Amy Adams are both great. But the real star of this movie is Christian Bale. Despite playing such a despicable character, he makes you care for him, and the transformation he goes through in this film is just great. The fact that they made this movie about the redemption of both Mickey Ward and his brother made the movie twice as interesting. It's not just a boxing movie, it's just a story about people who happen to be boxing, and it's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen this yet, go out and see it, because this is definitely the best movie playing in theaters right now. At number 4 is the Facebook biopic, The Social Network. While I had 3 movies above this, if I had to pick one movie that's probably going to win Best Picture, it'd probably be this. This is just a great all-around film. David Fincher is just a great director who can make the story of anything interesting, and the way he tells the story is just... It's great, the way he jumps back and forth in time, and just the way he structures the whole thing as a story of betrayal is just fantastic, and all the performances are really great too. Not much to say about this one, it's just, like I said, a great all-around film that you definitely should check out. Also very socially relevant, because Facebook being so popular today, it really has an extra impact because of that, as opposed to if it was made 20 years from now and Facebook will probably be dead. Sorry, just a fact. At number 3 is Pixar's Toy Story 3. Man, I love this series, and I'm so glad that they actually finished it with a solid 3rd installment, which is very rare in movie series. Not only was this a very fun movie, a very funny movie, but it was also a very human movie despite being about toys. The ending is very emotional, especially if you've been a fan of these movies for as long as I have. These movies have been around for as long as I have. The original movie came out around the time of my birth, and this has just been a very important series to me throughout my life, and it was great to see these characters reach a fitting and emotional conclusion. It's also a very inventive movie with great characters, and one of the most creative escape plans that I've seen in a movie. At number 2, we have Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now this may come as a surprise to people who watched the original review, because I only gave this movie 3 stars when I first saw it. Maybe it was because I was Scott Pilgrimed out from reading the comics over the summer, or maybe just because I didn't see how truly brilliant this film is. This is one of the most inventive comedies I've ever seen. Man, Edgar Wright just directs this movie just amazingly. The visual style, the way the whole movie flows into itself, it never feels like it's just changing scenes. It feels like you're reading a comic book, and it's just seamlessly going from one scene to the next. It's just a hilarious movie. It taps into video game culture, taps into geek culture better than almost any movie I've ever seen. And this is easily the most rewatchable film of the year. I bought this like a month ago, and I've easily watched it about 15 times. It's great. I mean, it's so quotable, so hilarious. It has a lot of heart, and I can't believe that I didn't give the movie the credit it deserved, because this is just a great film, and probably the film I'll remember most from 2010. Unfortunately for Scott Pilgrim, though, it was knocked off the number 1 spot by a film of pure brilliance in every fashion. Say it with me now. Number 1 is... This is a multi-layered, brilliantly acted, emotionally satisfying film that is just awesome in every respect. Christopher Nolan is the only true genius left working in Hollywood. He just pumps out one brilliant movie after another. Inception, it's just great. I'm speechless. I can't even go into words about this movie, because if I start describing it, I'll start giving things away. But all the actors are great. Leonardo DiCaprio, Ellen Page, Tom Hardy. The story is presented in a way that it's such a rich, complicated story that anybody can understand as long as they pay attention. It really is just a work of brilliance, and I couldn't be looking forward to The Dark Knight Returns anymore, or Rises, whatever. And it's gonna be fantastic. And Inception is easily the best movie of the year. Deserves to win Best Picture. Christopher Nolan deserves to win Best Director. This thing is just unbelievable. So those are my top 10 favorites of the year. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. It's going to be 2 years of it. I'll have been doing this in February, which is insane enough in and of itself. But 2011 is looking to be a great year, and I'll see you in a bit with reviews of True Grit, The King's Speech, and my top 5 most and least anticipated movies of 2011.